Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Siemens Leadership Program Opportunities event. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode. Later on, we'll conduct a live question and answer session with our presenters. As a reminder, this conference is also being recorded for replay purposes. We have the pleasure to welcome for this live session our keynote speakers, Jutta Frank, the Manager of Finance Excellence Program, Rebecca Burmes, the Manager Siemens CEO Program, Zhuang Guan, Head of Strategy for Large Drives Applications in Siemens, also CEO Program Alumna, Antonio Recio, the CEO Program Associate, Gadi, the CFO Siemens PLM Software Israel and Global Segment Controller, also the FEP alumnus, Leila Arab, the FEP Associate, and Claudia Massey, the CEO of Siemens Oman. Warm welcome to you, everyone.
Yes, welcome and thanks for having us today. We are overwhelmed by the number of signups and happy to present you our Siemens leadership opportunities today.
Can you see us? Can you hear us? Can you feel us? Welcome to the world of Siemens.
But we not only want to welcome you to Siemens, but also welcome you to your next adventure. In the next 45 minutes, we want to tell you more about how you can grow personally on this adventure. How you can grow by exceeding yourself, by exceeding what you thought you were able to do. We are here to invite you to exceed yourself and grow at Siemens. We brought along two very unique opportunities for you in one of the largest companies of the world.
So, who is we? Well, let us quickly introduce ourselves. We brought participants from both programs, Leila and Gadi for the FEP, and Joanne, Antonio, and Claudia for the CEO program. My name is Jutta, and together with my colleague Rebecca, we are in charge of managing the programs. But to be clear, we will not talk about your athletic career. In our context, exceeding yourself means getting ready to take over bigger responsibility. We created two programs that prepare extraordinary talents for a leadership role in Siemens. This is the Chief Executive Opportunity Program and the Finance Excellence Program. Two exclusive leadership opportunities for high potentials, for change agents, for MBA students like you are coming from all around the world. Only a very few candidates are each year accepted to join these executive development programs, handpicked by the top management. That means visibility from day one. Both programs are built on the same modules. Core of it are 3 different assignments where you will be working on challenging projects, 3 times being in different teams, different businesses in different regions. That's a great chance to build up your reputation. In addition to what you learn during these projects, we offer world-class training for technical topics and for leadership. Your development package will be completed by individual coaching sessions, and a personal mentor who accompanies you throughout the program. And as strong network is key for success, networking is the foundation of the 24 months. There are a lot of rotational programs in the market, but our programs are unique. They are tailor-made and will place you in the driver's seat to drive a successful career at Siemens. So what means tailor-made approach? Here are some examples of where our current associates exceed themselves at the moment. Like Sasha in US in smart infrastructures, he's launching a new business model in cloud software. Or Juan, who is a project manager in Singapore in a competitiveness program. And April, who's located in Beijing in digital industries. So who are the best to tell you about the programs? The participants themselves, of course. They will tell you more about their unique task and challenge. And with this, I hand over to Gadi.
Hi everyone, Gadi here. As you can see, this was the original photo when I joined the program, and this is a live evidence of how I looked and back then. And this tells the story of the assignments that I had and also my exit assignment when I graduated from the program. And if you can see that the three assignments that I had are around the business of energy. When I started in a very entrepreneurial business with the energy, basically renewable energy for solar power, where I was in the front of doing bid management for large projects around renewable energy in the photovoltaic space. And then I took another a challenging assignment, more in the area of integration of a recently acquired company by Siemens, when I was working side by side with the CFO, actually working day to day with the CFO, and specifically tasked with defining the operational KPIs to track the business performance, and then establish the right management reporting around it. And so that was my second assignment. The third assignment was really hands-on operational work in the factories and finding a way to drive cost efficiencies between 13 factories in China. And that was a really interesting time, really to go from more color, white collar environment and actually to the actual factory space when you can see things that are being built and how do they connect at the end to the finance arena. And these three assignments were very international. They were in Germany and in Israel and in China, where I had the pleasure to take on advantages. All these accumulated assignments, which supplemented my MBA experience and also my previous experience before joining Siemens, led to a very interesting exit assignment, where I chose to stay in China, where was my third assignment. And I took the role of head of strategy for our entire energy business in China. It's a very large footprint. And there I led the strategy team, and that was the exit assignment. So a short story of 3 assignments and a very successful exit assignment that led to a few other assignments that I will talk maybe in another session. So this is my story, and I will now give it to Leila to tell her story so far.
Hi all, my name is Leila. I'm born and raised in South Africa. I'm a chartered accountant, much to my mother's dismay, because she wanted me to become a doctor. I have a background in financial services, specifically audit, corporate finance, and equity research. I'm really grateful for the roles that I've had so far in my career and how it's helped me develop my strategic thinking. I just completed my MBA at ESA. And while SA is known as the Rainbow Nation and is very diverse in its own right, the MBA really provided me the ability to work more internationally diverse teams. But most importantly, it led me here to the FEP program. The biggest draw card for me about this program was, as you just said, the fact that you get to tailor your assignment to your specific goals, and that the program really has a focus on developing your leadership potential. So because I just started the program, we thought it would be best for me to focus on the onboarding process. I was supposed to join in June, but because I'm from South Africa and I'm not an EU citizen, I had to apply for a visa, and there was a delay in that. And the program office was really supportive in terms of controlling what we could control and also what we couldn't. So eventually I came to Munich on the 1st of August. And what that entails is a month of onboarding, where in the morning you do 3.5 hours of German classes in person, and you kind of get to know the city, just kind of settle in. In the afternoons, there's the chance to do all kind of the administrative things that you need to do that goes with going into a new city and joining a new company. Yeah, and I think I was very lucky to spend this month in Munich onboarding, because you really learn that Siemens is not just a company, it's an institution. And especially here in Munich, you see how ingrained it is in people's cultures. I know some people whose parents have met at Siemens and now they work for Siemens. So it's really great to see how much people just love the company. And I'm lucky enough to have had my assignment before I started the onboarding. But a lot of people also use that 1 month to network more and find their first assignment, because while you have the flexibility to find your own assignment, the onus is really on you to drive that process, make those connections. And Siemens is a huge place, so it's not always easy from the outside to know what's going on the inside and what opportunities there are on a assignment level. And that first month also gives you a bit more of an opportunity to do that. My first assignment now is in the M&A division within mobility, and it's a really exciting space and I'm really enjoying it. I'll pass on to the next participant. Joanne.
So hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. I just turned on the video, as also I'm a little bit new to this Zoom conferencing, unfortunately. My name's Joanne Guan, so I'm actually an alumni of the CEO program, and it's a pleasure to meet everyone here today. And one of the things I would wish that I could also meet everyone in person, but hopefully in the near future we get some chances. So I'd like to share a little bit about my journey. I finished the program actually in 2018 at the end of the year, and I started it in 2016. So I was 2.5 years in the program, where I completed 3 assignments before taking my exit role. So for starters, I would like to share, I did my first assignment in Asia based out of Singapore, where I was in a role doing regional business development, trying to create new partnerships for the power generation business. So this was a customer-facing role, and truthfully, it was a little bit similar to what I'd done before, but it was a completely new portfolio, and this was definitely a steep learning curve. My second assignment then I did was also out of my comfort zone. So my second assignment was in a new location in the US, in Orlando, where we had the headquarters for our power generation service business. And I was tasked to look at the operation setup of 28 service centers that we had globally, and to come up with concrete measures on how we could do cost improvements. So this is quite new to me, both in terms of technology as well as in terms of job location. So this was actually my first time even being in the Americas as a whole. So it was a learning curve, but it was also a great time and a great experience. And I think times like this is things you don't get a second time round. For my last assignment, I took on the role then in Germany in headquarters to set up a new business line. So it was a small startup team based in a traditional business unit. And the task that we had was to identify the sweet spots to make investment decisions in, and to come up with a concept and roadmap how to multiply this out globally. This was also a challenge in terms of technology, as touching more on the controls and digitalization arena was something newer to me, as I come from a traditional engineering background. But as it goes with the program, you have 8 months, you jump in, you start swimming, and somewhere along the way you realize that, hey, you've learned how to swim better than you did before. And this is definitely one of my key learnings from the program. So I exited the program in a role to take on the head of strategy. Incidentally, I didn't know Gadi also had a similar exit, but mine was for a business unit in Siemens AG. And this to me was also, there was definitely a steep learning curve, but it was one of the most interesting roles ever too. So I'm now also the head of strategy of another business unit. And yeah, we can talk more later during Q&A. One other thing I think which helped a lot in the program was the amount of training that we get. And it's amazing how Siemens really opens up opportunities for you to learn during the program. So, for example, not just language training. So when I was in Germany, I had the opportunity for German classes. There was no question or discussions around this. It was accepted and supported. And I know colleagues as well who went to China or went to other countries and were also offered similar language classes, for example, to help them. We were also offered leadership training. So I had 4 sessions of leadership training, 2 or 3 a year, depending on the duration. And these were things in terms of coaching you in terms of working with others or manager talks or things like this, as well, including fireside chats as well that you get with senior managers to network. I think lastly, the third type of training that you could also get was technical training, and this was really based upon your assignment and your interest. So, for example, as I was new to the power generation business, I'd never seen a gas turbine before. I asked if I could have a 1-week training course to learn how to basically take a turbine apart, and they agreed. There was no discussion around it. It was more, this is important for your job, important to learn, and important to help you perform. And definitely for me, I think, yeah, it made it all worthwhile. So I think enough about me. I'd like to hand it over also to a colleague of mine, Antonio, to share more.
Thank you, Joe. I hope you can all see me and hopefully hear me well. As you can see, the stakes are pretty high, so I'll try to just follow up with what my experience has been so far and how did I actually end up into the program itself, right? So about a bit more than a year, I was in your shoes, thinking about what my future career would look like. The CEO program came along. Prior to that, I was a project manager for an automotive company, shifting around the world, building automotive paint shops. And I thought I would do an MBA to really find what I wanted to do. 2 years flew by through the MBA and I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So worth the investment, but nevertheless, Siemens and the program gave me the opportunity to, during the 3 rotations, really figure out where do I want to take my next step after the program, right? So Siemens, I think you all know it's very wide. So from digital industries to smart infrastructures and many other businesses. And that was one of the things that attracted me most, that I did not have to commit for longer than 8 months and still try to find myself around the program. So I'll tell you a bit of my journey so far. I started my first rotation in Germany, and I'm sure you're all well aware of the double, triple, or single jump from role, industry, and geography. And so for me, coming to Germany was, I would say, a double jump. New industry, so I did it in digital industries, in factory automation, a bit familiar with it nevertheless, but absolutely new to the geography and to the language a bit. I could speak it, but never, for sure, not up to business standards, but I'm still working on it. And basically on my first rotation, we were working on an innovation project and to disrupt factory automation as it is currently. And basically, I think one of the things of the program, it's exceeding yourself, no, and pulling yourself and stretching yourself. And again, you come into these positions where you are probably the least experienced person, also most likely the youngest, and you have to influence and build your credibility, as Joanne said, within 8 months, right? So you have to actually swim, and there's no time to think how to swim. You just have to do it. And it was quite a great, it was a very big experience as well. Also, it teaches you humility. I thought I knew it all before the MBA. After the MBA, I knew even more, or so did I think about. And then I got to my rotation and it's like, look, people here have 20 years, 30 years of experience. You have no idea what's going on. So, you know, it teaches you how to influence and be humble about just listen and learn from the wealth of experience that you're surrounded with. But at the same time, you know, you have to drive for results. And yeah, it was a great experience. I was also fortunate enough, coming into the program, I thought, yes, Siemens is, it's a classical industry, very non-entrepreneurial, but I was fortunate enough to join an accelerator during my first rotation, which was for this innovation ideas. And this was a program within a program, a crash course or a boot camp on entrepreneurship during my first rotation. As for my second rotation, I will be doing a triple jump: geography, industry, and role. I will be heading key account management and partnerships in Southeast Asia for e-mobilities. I have no idea about e-mobility, or at least not for the last month. And I have to be honest, during my career or university studies, electricity and magnetism was not my strength. So hopefully pulling myself and exceeding myself during the second rotation. And again, this gives me the opportunity to, one, experience a new geography, two, a complete different industry, and thirdly, network myself into a different part of the world, right? So again, this is the program supporting us or opening up the opportunities, not just in Germany, but everywhere where we find an opportunity or a business opportunity. And just to close up, I want to touch back on what Jutta was talking, that visibility and networking are two key things of both programs. In our case, back in April, we had a session with regional country CEOs. That was 30 CEOs. And also we had the opportunity to interact with some board members. And I mean, what else could I tell you? Roland Busch, which is the deputy CEO, was also there. And so it was great to participate and interact with them and get an idea of how do they think at a more strategic and global level. And I would say that's it for me. I can only hope that in a couple of years, I can tell my success story like Gadi, like Joanne, maybe in a strategy, I don't know. And then also like Claudia, who will tell us how she ended up as a regional country CEO. So up to you, Jutta, the screen is totally yours.
Yes, thank you, Antonio. And yes, and if you all wonder what happens after the program, please meet 6 of our alumni and see where they are now. For example, on the CEO side, Claudia, just mentioned by Antonio, being now the CEO of Siemens in Oman. Or Emmerich, he's the CEO of Advanta, our IoT business or function, and he's responsible for 8,000 employees. And on the flip side, we have Ritesh, who is the CFO of turnkey projects in mobility. Or Begonia, she's the head of performance controlling for Gamesa in Spain. Yes, and now it's planned that I hand over to Claudia, who will provide more insight into Siemens, and I hope that the connection to Oman, to Muscat, is stable.
Can you hear me, everyone? So I would like to start with, I could start obviously talking about how Siemens has almost 400,000 employees, so or almost 90 billion euros of revenue. Or I could also start talking about the fact that we have.
Sorry, Claudia, the connection is not stable. I would suggest that we give this part to Gadi, if that is okay.
But
can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Jutta. Gadi, do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm also sharing my video, and I will step in exactly where Claudia stopped in case Claudia can come back. We will give her the stage. So Claudia is in Oman, and I guess the internet connection is not that well. I know actually Claudia, we have met during the time that I did my program and she did hers. So if she comes back, I'll step in. Claudia, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me still? Great. So I could start talking about lots of different aspects from Siemens, but I would like to focus on the fact that Siemens has always been on the forefront of the modernization of industry. So when you start like going back to the foundation of Siemens, that's when we were developing steam power, that's shifting from manual to mechanical production. That's Industry 1.0. And that's the time when Siemens was founded. And then we continue with Industry 2.0. That's when electricity was included in the assembly line. Then we go to Industry 3.0 with the introduction of electronics and IT, automating manufacturing. And Siemens has always been the leader in the forefront. And now, not differently, we are also coining the term Industry 4.0 with digitalization and cyber physical systems. So that is actually a very powerful statement because it shows how we are modernizing the production systems and how much we can remain relevant as the world keeps evolving, because most of the times we are also involved in introducing automation and innovation in the world. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is, for those who are not so familiar with us, we are also very much recognized nowadays as an industrial software company. So actually, depending on the ranking that you use, of course, I'm going to get the best ranking, the most favorable to us, but that's from a very reliable source. So Harvard Business Review has mentioned us as the #1 industrial technology company. And that is because of our historical focus on digitalization and automation, and then more recent focus on cloud applications, on focus on IoT. And we have been acquiring a lot of companies to make sure that we can remain relevant, first of all, and secondly, that we can really accelerate all the innovations, because it's much easier if you simply get something that is successful and you put inside our big machine, and then we make sure that we scale this up more and more. So we have done acquisitions such as Bentley, Mentor Graphics. One of the latest ones and like a very successful one was Mendix. So a lot of different acquisitions in order to ensure that we have a better hold of software capabilities in the company, and therefore that we can keep defending our position as an innovator in the industry. And finally, of course, this doesn't come for free, right? So there is a lot of hard work behind it. There is a lot of resources invested in R&D, like fiscal year 19, which is actually finished September of last year. We invested 5.7 billion euro. And nowadays, even with COVID, Siemens has already ensured that R&D expenditure will remain there. So we want to keep focusing, keep investing in innovation. We have over 20 portfolio companies or startups. Like, so we're talking about those that I mentioned that we acquired, but we acquired even some other ones. We have our software layer for the cloud is called MindSphere, and we have decided to invest in MindSphere Application Center. So it's actually a physical location where you have a number of programmers, and then they focus exactly in one application. So for instance, in Dubai, we have a MAC, a MindSphere Application Center for airports, where we develop a lot of innovations for Dubai International Airport. In Abu Dhabi, we have one focus on oil and gas. So we develop a lot of things also for the oil and gas customers. And those applications, they are of course developed in partnership with customers, but then they can also be leveraged to other companies in the same industries throughout the world. And until now, like of course, when you're talking about cloud applications, you're talking about sensors, about connectivity. We have 1.4 million devices and systems connected to MindSphere. So this means we get our domain expertise and we connect with the software capabilities that we are developing, that we are acquiring. And that's what makes us so strong to act as an industrial software application. So I don't know if you could hear me at the beginning, but I was saying that I didn't want to start talking about Siemens as a certain revenue, let's say almost 90 billion euro revenue last year, or almost 400,000 employees worldwide, or talking about healthcare, mobility, energy, smart infrastructure, smart cities, and digital automation and control. but I wanted to give you an idea on how much we are transforming ourselves to become a very big leader in the software, in the industrial software field, because that's where we see the world going, and that's where we want to keep up with the pace of change. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. And talking about connectivity, great that the connection remains stable. So now, if we manage to raise your curiosity, then of course the question is, what does it take to get in? So let's talk hard facts. Yes, you need to be great in academics. As you made it to an MBA school, I'm pretty sure you are. We require an engineering or IT background for the CEO program and finance education for the FEP. Professional background. We are looking for 5 to 10 years of experience in different positions, companies, or regions. Of course, this experience should be related to the program you want to apply for. But as we said before, it's all about people. So what matters most to us are your personal skills. We are looking for extraordinary talents who can challenge the status quo, lead change, and really dedicate themselves to the Siemens story. That includes international mobility and flexibility throughout and after the program. Are you ready to exceed yourselves? Well, now we're coming to the most important step, your application. So for everyone who switched to Netflix in the meantime, now is the moment to come back. Please apply with your profile and your cover letter. Yes, please send a cover letter. We do actually read them to understand your unique motivation to join Siemens and our program. If you have a passion for a specific Siemens business, we're happy to hear about that as well. The application can be submitted via our website. You can find the link on the slide, and we will also share a QR code at the end of the presentation. And you will receive feedback from us shortly after your application. For those who are studying at a university where we will host another event, please be patient with us. We will give you feedback after your school-specific deadline. And then we have 3 rounds of interviews. We are all going to connect them virtually this season due to obvious reasons. And the first round is going to be combined with an assessment, which you will be asked to complete before the interview. The second round interview will connect you to one of the Siemens businesses. And in the third round of interview, you will be able to prove yourself in front of top Siemens management. So you better come prepared. We're looking forward to your applications. And now I think it's time for your questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. So dear participants, make sure to leverage, we have approximately 1 more hour left to go through all of your different questions that you have around opportunities at Siemens, as well as around leadership development programs. So let's start first with a question coming in from Mansi, perhaps Yuta or you, Rebecca. It's about requirements. Are FEP and CEO programs both relevant only for MBA graduates?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, indeed, we are looking for MBA students because we think that they usually bring the skills, the mindset we are looking for. So we are looking around the world, not only at specific MBA schools, but at all MBA schools.
Excellent, thank you. And perhaps another question that is related to the requirements around the work permits. Are the local work permits required?
Yes, all our associates, how we call the participants, they start in Germany with a German working contract. And we support people coming from outside Germany to get the visa, to get the working permit, and yeah, start with those papers which are required to start with a German contract.
Excellent, thank you. Question from Divya asking, what are the typical skills attributes that you're looking at from applicants in the CEO program? Perhaps question for you, Rebecca.
Yes, so maybe a quick introduction from my side on this question, and then I would probably hand over to Joanne or Antonio, who will give not only the kind of the question or the side of the question that is relevant from our side, but also really demanded by participants during the journey. So yeah, as we said before, we would require a engineering background or that you've worked in an engineering related field in an industry that is related to Siemens or covers similar topics, similar projects. So this kind of experience is kind of the basis. And then, as said before, 5 to 10 years of experience. We would also look for that you had already done some leadership experience and yeah, led some projects, and yeah, maybe on the soft skill side, Joanne or Antonio could jump in and tell some of the soft skills required.
So it's actually interesting because thanks, Rebecca, because actually Antonio and me were talking about this one yesterday for a little bit after dinner, and we were saying, what do you think are the kind of traits that you would say now in reflection or while you're in the program are important? So I picked flexibility as a soft skill that I think is highly important as well for any sort of rotational program, actually, just because things change constantly, and in a program like this where it's compressed and with high expectations and short term, they change even faster. So you could meet a situation, be halfway in your program, halfway in your assignment, when then COVID hit, for example, everyone's home office. So how are you going to manage this? You could meet a situation where, okay, you were supposed to go there to maybe Switzerland for a project, but then something changed. Okay, now your assignment scope changed. Switzerland doesn't make sense. Can you adapt fast and maybe change to Berlin instead of Switzerland? And this happened to a lot of us during the program. And I think really being adaptable and flexible on the soft skills that really helps you to just quickly mitigate things and move on, and focus on delivering the work. So I think that was my pick personally. I'm not sure, Antonio, if you mentioned something else.
I mean, you already covered some of the things that we discussed yesterday, but I would also say that you have to be versatile. Like this just lines up to what Joanne said, but you also have to have initiative, right? So you need to get your feet on the ground, and you have 8 months for sprinting and not looking back. So you have to be able to, with versatility, adapt, like Joe mentioned, but also focus on delivering, which is not easy in a short amount of time, but that's probably the challenge of being in a program like this.
So I could give one example on this. The first time when I went to the States, they applied a visa for me, and somehow the embassy in Singapore at the time misinterpreted it as they didn't accept the first letter, so they actually rejected my application the first time, and that means we had to redo the letter and clarify and explain to them, no, the letter was actually correct, but this was basically a 3.5 week delay in the visa, meaning I was in Singapore working US hours because this was the start of my project. And this is just, I think you just have to change then your whole lifestyle around it, even just I want to start strong. And I think you can't just sit there and go, okay, what's next? You have to push your way through. So yeah, that was funny.
Excellent, thank you. A question from Vasim asking, regarding the CEO program, how are assignment projects defined, based on opportunities or tailored based on previous backgrounds?
Yes, so maybe same split as before. I can tell the the side how it should be, and you tell how it really is. So yeah, basically we take into account all the different puzzle pieces. So of course the what you bring already to the CEO program, but also the unique skills that you still want to require during the program. And there, of course, we as mentors from Siemens, as me as the program manager, we do some yeah, we help you finding assignments, but we also rely on you and put you strongly into the driver's seat. And that, of course, Antonio and Joanne, I think, can tell, or all the associates, even Leila, who had to find one during COVID, one assignment. So I think we rely on you to, yeah, make your way and build strong connections from the beginning or even before that. And to find your assignments via that route as well.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, the most insightful thing for me was just chatting to other FEP alumni and understanding what their thought process was when looking for assignments. It's also very important that when you're looking for an assignment, that the team you're working with or the management you're working with understands the value of the program, as perhaps just is more aware of it and understands that this is a leadership program. And I think once you've spoken to people and really understand their thinking and what's driven other people's decisions in their assignment journey, it helps you form your own, even if you had a very clear idea going into the program what you wanted to do.
So I would share at least my impression of finding assignments. It's very similar to finding your job during the MBA. You have the program office, which is your support or career services infrastructure, right? Who will support you to find and make those connections. But at the end of the day, it's you on your own initiative. And like Leila explained, networking your way. You have your initial network, which is the alums from the program and current associates. But then you can reach out to individuals, or they could connect you to individuals within the different businesses, and taking into consideration what your skill set and what you're looking for, and then you could dig deeper, right? So it's a mixture between business need, tailoring a little bit, but mostly also, I would say, networking.
I think there's also some support, if I could add to, from the program management about this. So, I mean, my second assignment to the US was sort of my wish, but it was also a bit of goading from the program manager at that time too, where he told me, it could be good to broaden your horizons, and also because I was not very outspoken, or I wasn't as outspoken, he said it could be good to go over there and sort of stretch yourself a bit among culture that is, more comfortable being outspoken and forward speaking. And I guess that's how sometimes assignments triangulate itself and you land on an assignment, a business, or a location.
As you mentioned right now, the mentorship support from the leaders. How do the rest of you, in general, how would you describe the support, from senior business leaders? How do you experience that within the program? Perhaps a question for everyone within the program or has graduated from the program.
So I could start then. So I think in the program, everyone's relationship with a mentor, I think, is quite different. So also the reason you choose a mentor, whether it's more on the personal side or the career side, that you want maybe someone to mentor you with. But I would say that for most of us, I think we find that we're able very easily to reach out and get regular meetings with very senior people who are on the board level, maybe even of Siemens. And really very confidentially also discuss very open topics, and also utilize even their network sometimes in finding next assignments, or even directing us to maybe job opportunities. So the relationship is different for everyone, but I would say in my case, it's been 5 years now. So I think it was 2016 when I first talked to him, and I would say I have a call with him next week actually, and that's a follow-up call. So still going okay. In some cases, too many people have not just one mentor from the program, but maybe through their network and also their working life at Siemens, they might need a couple of others that also could serve as unofficial mentors in different forms. That's my take on it.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit Yeah, like Joe mentioned, is a bit different. So I differentiate between mentors and sponsors. Sponsors are the ones that you could potentially open doors to new assignments or potential exit opportunities. And then with my mentor, what I do is we just meet on a regular basis every 2.5, 3 months. And the virtue of the program is that you can, as mentioned before, you can actually reach out freely and with not too much hesitance to higher management, right? So this is something that not necessarily would be an option if you were not part of the program, but given that the opportunity is there, it's always great to reach out, listen what they have to say, and also listen for future opportunities which you could lead into for future assignments or even exit roles.
Excellent, thank you. Leila, question for you. What type of M&A deals did you work on for Siemens? What type of deal size, deal structures were involved?
So I've just started in M&A mobility on the 1st of September. I am on a deal currently. I tell you about it, but then I might have to kill you. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, obviously the deals are subject to confidentiality. But a lot of the trends I can tell you that are driving M&A activity in the sector now are about Siemens expanding its geographic footprint. So in some regions across the world, in mobility, you're seeing a lot of turnkey projects coming up, especially accelerated sometimes by coronavirus. And now it's just about Siemens maybe not having a presence in these regions and finding companies to acquire that will kind of give us the footprint and the staff complement that we need there. That's one of the big trends right now. So that's a deal I'm working on. Yeah, the biggest thing is that I'm realizing about the M&A deals here are just about, you know, Siemens has its strategy on an overall level, each BU has its strategy, and of course then you're dealing with the target company. So it's about kind of bringing all of those together as a finance professional and a project management kind of role, and still mitigating the risk while, you know, following the strategy of all these different stakeholders. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Perfect, thank you very much. Jutta, Rebecca, question for you. There's a lot of interest in this. How many people do you hire each year for each of the programs?
For the FAB, we don't have any specific, really fixed number. It is around 5 to 8 people per year. It yeah, a little bit. It depends on the candidates. If Ralf Thomas, our sponsor, always says, whenever you meet a candidate who convinces us, then we find a place for him or for her.
Yeah, I think in theory, same holds true for the CEO program as well. So yeah, I mean, the final decision is made by the business. So if you can convince them, then I think you have good chances here.
Perfect, thank you. A follow-up question to that. So it's a twofold question. What are the deadlines for applications? And also if you could explain a little bit more on what to expect within the interview process. Is there a case study conducted during one of the interviews?
Yes, for the FAB, and I think regarding deadlines, are the same for the CEO program. We have specific schools where we have a specific activity now planned, and there we have a fixed deadline. For candidates who are not at one of these schools, you can apply whenever you want, whenever you feel to be ready to apply. And then regarding the process, as Rebecca explained, we have this 3 steps after the CV screening. And for the PEP, I can tell you that we have yeah, I would say in each of the interviews, we have partly personality, behavior questions, but also some technical finance questions to check your finance knowledge.
And I think what is new this year, so if you followed us a while already, so we introduced this Hogan assessment, the assessment before the first round interview, and that is really to to further enhance our process. And I think you're already used to assessments like that from your MBA and maybe further from other jobs. So it's not a big deal, and we take that into account for the first round. And in CEO, it's basically the same. So a good focus on the behavioral side in the interviews, but also, of course, some business or technical problem solving.
Perfect, thank you. Also regrouping some of the questions coming in around years of work experience. So is there, any leeway on 5 to 10 years of experience, and also whether you want those before MBA program or after the MBA program?
Yeah, as Rebecca said before, we have these some points where we look at a number of years of experience, the education, and personality. I always say we look at the big picture. We try to understand the candidate, and yes, we are orientating between 5 and 10 years. But if there would be a candidate who have a little bit less or a little bit more years of experience and would bring other very relevant skills and experience, I could imagine that we would also look at this candidate.
Perfect, thank you. So first we have a hello from London, from Spandan, saying the personal stories are incredibly amazing and great to see Siemens providing these opportunities. A question: given the current situation we find ourselves in due to COVID-19, a lot of the opportunities seem over different countries and roles. How is Siemens working on maintaining the same exposure and learnings in the work from home environment?
Yeah, maybe to share an example that we currently have. So we had one associate who's currently in the program whose plan it was to go to the US for an assignment, and then the US decided to not not issue any visas anymore. So basically his plan was being cancelled. And he's now found another opportunity in Switzerland, which is great, and I think as good as the one in the US. So I think current times, and Antonio and Joanne already elaborated on that. This is a skill that is required anyways during the program, but in these times maybe even more, is flexibility. So I think we're all in this together. We need to see how to make it work together, and that's the best option we have.
Yes, and from FEP specifically, or for total Siemens, I would say that Siemens very much supports the home office. So for those of us who are just office worker, you can do it mostly from home. So, and that's of course for everyone in Siemens, employed in Siemens. For the FEP, we just had our first experience with the remote onboarding. So in 1st of August, beside Leila, there was another colleague starting in the Finance Excellence program, and this person is still based in India. And I can tell you that we had the one or the other discussion and thought about how can we make it. But so far, I knock on wood, this person is successfully onboarded. He's working from India for a team in Berlin. And at the moment, we are keeping fingers crossed that he can get the visa to come to Germany and then finally meet in person, of course.
I'd like to add from my side, I mean, we still trying to meet at least 2 or 3 times a week in the office. As a new team, that really helps me a lot, just to build that rapport with everyone in my team. So it's a balance between the work from home and working from the office. This will obviously depend on your region and your team.
I would just go back to the original question, which I think the program is still supporting those international assignments. I mean, I'm a victim of it. and so are other associates. The only thing is that we just need to be more flexible because things like the US do not really depend on the program, right? But those international assignments, at least, and as of now, they're still happening.
Excellent, thank you. So we have Neil, first of all, wishing a good evening from Shanghai, has a question for Leila and Gadi. What has been your greatest achievement in the FEP so far, and what has been your most challenging moment? Perhaps I want to go first?
I will let Leila, ladies first, please.
Well, I've just started, so it's a little early for me to say what my biggest success is. For me, I guess I'm just really, my biggest success is getting into the program. I really feel very happy to have kind of made it here, and especially getting this really, what I consider a very cool assignment with a really good team who is very supportive of me and the program. The biggest challenge, I guess, was definitely the whole lockdown period, not knowing what was going to happen. But I must say that's where I think Siemens as a company is really different from a lot of other companies. I felt safe, supported. Joe Kaiser also came out saying people aren't going to lose their jobs. And I think that stability that Siemens provides in this type of environment that we're currently in now, it really helped me face that challenge. But that was definitely a difficult time just regarding all that uncertainty.
From my side, I would split it since I have a little bit more runway with the program and the assignments after the programs. So I will split it between professional and personal, although they go hand in hand. So on the professional side, for me, completing what I thought is the journey from the FEP participant to the CFO level, so really having the P&L, for me, this is what I call the success. But after you become a CFO for the first time, then you realize there is a bigger opportunities and greater opportunities. And currently I'm in the second CFO position already. So for me, that is an achievement, because it's one of the reasons I joined the program, is to complete the picture with having the C-level and the P&L responsibility. And I use the program in the good sense of the word in order to acquire more skills. And I handpicked the assignments in order to complement areas that were lacking and strengthening areas that I already had experience, but I wanted to have it in the Siemens way of doing it. One of them was M&A, by the way. I was involved in 4 or 5 M&As, from very small ones as an integration manager to larger ones that I'm actually the CFO right now. So that's on the professional side. On the personal side, I'm proud to say that I did it while not neglecting the family and the work-life balance. So I had 3 kids, really the start of joining Siemens, and each of them were born in different countries, from Germany to Israel, China, US. And that was a good support from Siemens to allow you not to advance in one area, the professional side, and neglect the personal side. So it worked really well. And this is one of the achievements of the program, is helping the individuals lead an international career. Regarding the things that were a little bit tougher, I would say that COVID is a very interesting case. We're fitting it right now. We have, in my area of responsibility, around 2,000 employees. Then since around about end of February, if I include the Chinese colleagues, are mostly working from home, developing code. We're in a software arena, meeting with customers virtually, managers doing team meetings. And in this case, although if you can see in our latest quarterly results, this is not a business topic, because Siemens is very resilient and we have shown good results, even under COVID, because we are really in the sweet spot of what the economies need. So there's still investment, and customers have believe in us, but managing an entire organization that used to meet in teams, in offsites, in the offices, and now managing it virtually, I think this is one of the greatest challenges of a CFO, and it requires a lot of flexibility, change in mindset. And if I take a look at the positive sides, I think, and I already see that we are implementing some positive things out of COVID on, for example, a work-life balance for employees, working more from home. And even in terms of products, what are the right business models? How can you deliver a product, software product, more virtually, simple to implement, less service that requires visits? So the challenge, definitely COVID is an interesting time, and also good experience as a CFO, and also how to make good things out of it once you come out of this current turmoil.
Perfect, thank you very much. Marco from IE Business School has a question from Joanne and Antonio. What type of advice would you have for someone applying for the CEO program?
Would you like to go first, Antonio?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Huh? I mean, I would suggest, like for any other process, do your own due diligence, right? So you know, you have to do your CV, you have to do your cover letter, but I would say my suggestion would be is think a bit further. If you were to be successful, where do you want to do those rotations? Why do you want to do those rotations? Why Siemens? Why, what happens after Siemens, right? So keep a little bit in mind the longer journey, I would suggest. And then other than that, you know, be yourself. Like Yuta and Rebecca mentioned, they're looking at a holistic picture, right? They're not looking at a master's in finance and master's in management, but they're looking at an individual, and your behavior is going to be deterministic as to whether you're successful or not. But just be yourself. That would be my suggestion on how to best prepare and do your due diligence, I would say.
So I would agree completely. Be yourself. And actually, this is not just for Siemens, I would say, but in general, all interviews, I think it's important to be yourself, because as an interviewee, what you often forget is that you're also interviewing the company to see if this is the place you want to invest your career in. So the ideal match, I like to say now that I also recruit people from my own teams and so on, is it should be like, you know, if I refer to Tinder, it should be that we both swiped yes. And it should not be like that one person feels it more than the other. And the meaning of it is that that's usually when we see a very happy combination and a very fruitful outcome as well. So be yourself, I always say, is the advice, but most importantly, I think do a bit of due diligence, really find out if this is for you. And what I also like to say is you should know your own story and your own motivation. So if you can't sell this to yourself, you can't sell it to anybody. And it's very important to be able to have your story and your motivation there, to be able to have a discussion with any interview or any company. This would be my personal suggestion. So just my 2 cents. Yeah.
Related to that, so a question for Rebecca and Yuta, a question from Alan from Macquarie School of Business. What are the qualities or experience that the hiring team is looking for in their ideal candidates?
Yeah, thank you. I would say that for me, there is not one ideal candidate. We're looking to hire people from outside with a certain amount of experience, professional experience, what they get at other companies maybe. That means we are looking for someone who brings new ideas, new ideas into our company. So that can be very diverse, coming from different countries, from different cultures, from different professional backgrounds. Of course, we want the ones who have some, especially for finance, who have some relevant finance background and finance expertise. Then I would very much look at the mindset. So as Antonio mentioned already before, be humble, be able to be humble. On the other side, in the same time, to be able to be ambitious and going for your goals. So this is the kind of person we're looking for, but I wouldn't say that there's one ideal candidate.
Yeah, and maybe to add from my side, as we already said also in the presentation, we're looking for people who are basically themselves, who are as Antonio and Joanne also said, who are themselves, who can basically do some change here, who really can challenge the status quo. We have enough of same thinking people here at Siemens, so we need some fresh external view and creativity and ideas to keep this company forward.
Perfect, thank you. Gadi, question for you from Swapnil asking, what are some skills from your previous IB and transactions experience that you found really helpful in transitioning into your FEP role at Siemens post MBA?
Thanks for the question. So my feeling, what kind of skills are needed? This is what I picked up from the question. Is that right?
Yes. So from your previous experience, what were those basically experiences most helpful?
And I think what I picked up from my previous experience, that before joining the company, this is what I understood. Is that right? Yeah. So prior to Siemens, I was already working in the let's say deep financial type of job. I was working for Ernst & Young. I was a manager there, and starting in audit and then valuation, business modeling, and M&A. So those, together with my academic background, were a good start in joining the company. So at least I could speak the language. But there is specific process, terminology, way of doing business that you anyway need to learn. And even though you worked in the finance area and you may have experience, still there is you're joining one of the largest companies in the world, and the business is really interesting and challenging. So what I found is actually the skill that I learned the most is actually during my MBA studies, which is the cultural understanding, how to work in teams. So less, I would say, I felt that my academic background was relevant to be successful at Siemens, but actually a lot in the MBA, presentation skills, how to sell a story, the art of communication. So I found out that a lot of things that actually the MBA could give you are the most useful. Because if you take those together with the academic background and a bit of curiosity, those are the ingredients that really helped me, specifically during those short assignments when you have quite short time to make an impact, and you need to get on the ground in a speedy way for each assignment of 8 months.
Thank you. Perhaps another question we're getting quite some around this topic is, how does everything come into play for candidates who already have families? Gadi, you mentioned it a little bit before about the support that you received, but basically in practice, what does happen? Do families move around with the candidates? And what is the support from Siemens for those candidates?
Yeah, Gadi already mentioned 3 kids in 3 different regions. Generally, we support, of course, we support families also as we at Siemens do generally, not only for the program participants. So, for example, when you arrive for the onboarding phase usually in Munich, in Germany, we will book a service apartment for you, and of course, the relocation agency also takes care to help you get the visa for Germany for the whole family. We let you fly in, and whenever you are asked to do an assignment at a different location, being it within Germany or outside Germany, we help to move the whole family. On the other hand, that sounds nice. On the other hand, I have to say, yes, this is a relevant question, and I think it's relevant to think about, and you have to make your decision, your personal decision, if you want to take your family with you within 2 years, maybe having 3 different locations also, that requires some commitment from the family, I guess.
And I want to add to that, Jutta, that Those programs now, they are pretty mature. So when I joined them more than 10 years ago, we were only a handful of people. Right now, you, by joining this program, you have access to the network of people that are currently doing the program, already graduated from the program, and they are spread all around the world. And they are also, probably when you go to a new place, they are the first phone call you're gonna make, and they're gonna help you a lot. So you not only Siemens is already an oiled machine of sending people to relocation around the world. You also have the network of people that are like you. A lot of them have MBAs, probably also some alums from the schools that you went through, but they have shared experience with you and they can help you. And I've helped and was helped by others as well during the past decade. And it's really helpful and comforting to know that this is part of a so-called family, that people are joining hands. So just that you know, you're not alone, no matter where you go.
So I would like to jump in and add one thing though, just a little bit as a disclaimer too, because I think this the support you receive with family or partners. So I didn't have family in terms of kids and husband, but I had a long-term partner. And just so, since I also noticed a lot of questions about this, for visas and all this is not a Siemens decision sometimes, but for maybe moving countries to get a visa sponsor for your family, you have to be married in many cases. So this was a problem for us, and we didn't feel like getting married just so he could come along with me. So in the end, we separated for a year and a half, long distance. And this is, as I would say, something you have to decide yourself, how you rotate and where you want to rotate and what are you willing to give up to rotate, because everyone's situation is different. So Siemens was more than happy to have him follow me to the US, but legally we couldn't have him on a visa because there was no legal contract that we were married at the time. If that helps. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Perhaps question for Rebecca and Yuta. There are some questions around whether you have specific target schools, and also given the current circumstances, whether you will be present at any of the campuses this fall.
Yeah, so last question is easier to answer. I think we won't be able to, given the situation, be on campus this year, and I think that's also in line with the regularities at the campuses. So for the campuses we talk to, they're mostly, and I think you are in those shoes, they're mostly doing virtual classes as well. So I think this virtual approach fits the general concept. And for target schools, we don't have specific target schools. We have a few where we do special events, but in general we are open for applications from all the schools, so we don't exclude any schools for applications.
Perfect, thank you. A question from Enrica asking whether is it possible to apply for both programs if we are not sure which one fits better?
Yeah, thank you. I have to say that this happens from time to time, that a candidate tells us, yeah, I'm not sure. Of course, let's say legally you could apply for both programs. However, what we are, and that's what, for example, why Rebecca also mentioned that we expect your cover letter. We not only want to see the profile, what you have done, but we want to understand your motivation. Why do you want to join Siemens? Why do you want to make a rotational program? And yes, both programs, CO and FAB, are rotational programs. However, the things behind or in the functions are very different. So we would expect candidates or ask candidates to think about what they really want. Where is their passion? In which direction do you want to develop? And at least at the moment, for the moment, you don't know maybe what will come after 10 years, after 20 years, but for the moment, you should have your idea in which direction you want to go. And that's where you have to convince us also.
Thank you very much, Jutta. Question from Dennis from Imperial College Business School is, what is a typical 5-year career path for a FEP graduate? What kind of roles and responsibilities will be offered to individuals right after the program?
That depends. It depends on you. Remember the slide with the 6 alum with the different business, different countries where they are. As we said, and that is true, you are in the driver's seat and you decide. Of course, it's not only, it's not, so we are in paradise and we just have a wish and then it comes true. But of course, it must make sense. But you are in the driver's seat to decide in which direction do I want to go. And then for the FEP, I can tell you that very different exits after the program. There were people working for 2 years in a certain business, and then they planned to stay there in this business, and then an offer from another business came around and they said, oh, this is a great chance for me, I will take it. Regarding after 5 years, the question, again, it depends where you want to go, where you start, if you want to stay a bit longer in a certain business, in a certain function, or you do after 2 years in your first exit role in another step to another function. So it's difficult to find here an average or a pattern where you would find yourself after 5 years.
And maybe to add, sorry.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
And maybe to add to that, of course, in your bag is always a big community of alums of both programs. We support you here, and the alums will support you here. We have right now, I think, at least 2 associates who are doing assignments at a former alum. So you always have a network that you can count on already within the program community, but also you will be able to build this network externally in your assignments and afterwards. So yeah, I think that's a strong basis, and you can always count on that here.
And I'll just quickly jump in. Sorry, Gadi. I'm not there yet, but I think one of the one pattern that's we can share is that there's not necessarily a position waiting for you. You need to make that position happen as well, right? So it's not like you have a seat somewhere waiting for you, or there was no seat for Gadi perhaps in China, but he had to make that happen through his rotations, through his network, and through his visibility. And that's where there's no pattern also as to what position or what progression you might have.
Just want to make a comment on that, because when I exited from the program, I also imagined the number 5 years, what it would happen in 5 years. And in often cases, you know, we want to define a timeline for something to happen. And I think the reality is not that way, exactly from some of the reasons that were already mentioned. But what is very important, that even if you put a timeline to something, that you allow it to be a bit fluffy. So what I told myself, I remember after 5 years, I had a specific goal where I want to be, which was, it doesn't matter for that matter, but I had a goal. But then when you mature, when you grow, when you see what you're doing, I think the better goal is to be proud with what you're doing. Be it after 1 year, after 3 years, after 5 years, rather than putting a specific goal or a title that you want. So in MBAs, you will have probably meetings, reunion meetings after 5 years and after 10 years. And what you can do with working at Siemens and joining those exciting programs is find a way to be proud of what you're doing and having a sense of meaning, be it in a certain country or a different title. And this is why you see that no journey of an individual is exactly the same. There is only one person that is exactly what I'm doing. There is only one person that will do what Leila is going to do, just as an example. So what is very important after you invested all that time, to go through the MBA, the selection process, tough selection process, and very interesting and demanding studies, is finding a way to get meaning. And what we're trying now today to tell you that you can customize the program in your career, tailor-made, in order to find that meaning that you are aspiring. If you weren't curious and you weren't so adventurous, you wouldn't go through the trouble of doing the MBA and being on that discussion with us today. So I would say, in short, it's about what you're going to do and how are you going to feel about it. And this is something that you should take into consideration, in my view.
Excellent, thank you. What about the work culture? We have a question coming in from Monica asking, how would you define the work culture at Siemens? And what are the main challenges that the culture faced because of the COVID-19?
I can start. So I think one of the major culture shocks was the whole work from office, right? So you could, at Siemens, it wasn't necessarily, it was, you were flexible at least, and I've only recently joined, and most of my Siemens career has been from working from home. But nevertheless, I think it was a forced experiment to do at Siemens. So people had to adjust as to how to work from home, not only themselves, but their partners or their couples or with kids, right? So, and I think this was a culture shock for a lot of people that, you know, they were used to going to the office, particularly those individuals that their job is in an office and they have to be there like in the laboratories or something like that, right? So I think this was also a major shock. And I think one of the things is that Siemens is so big that the culture, I would say, varies from operating company to operating company. Even within the same company, it's within business units, you will have very different types of cultures, right? So it's very hard to get a grip as to what the culture is like with such an immense diversity.
For me, one thing that's been consistent, again, I think Antonio is right that it's going to differ from team to team, but I've noticed that it's very important to, you know, just have a lot more dialogue and get the buy-in from all the people involved. And for me, that really does define the culture of Siemens. It's very inclusive.
I didn't want to start about this topic because I thought I'm German. I still, my personal perception is still that the Siemens culture is still very German, but I'm seeing it from working in Germany. So I thought that the one or the other from the panelists has also different experience. What I see, what I perceive, especially seeing also the new starters entering the company and trying to understand, we are a big conglomerate, in a very complex conglomerate. And I don't stop telling everyone, you need patience. If you want to survive in Siemens, you need patience. And of course, you need to be smart enough to understand, is this now a situation to be silent, to step back and wait? Or is this now a situation when I have to push and get through and reach my goal?
And maybe as an outlook, during the current COVID situation, also Siemens evolved quickly and decided on a new way of working, which is going to be basically for all over Siemens, and this allows employees to choose freely when they want to come to the office. So 2 to 3 days a week they can work mobilely from basically wherever they want to, and 2 or 3 days a week they can be in the office. So that is like a given.
So I thought about this before on, let's say, the culture of Siemens, because I got this question sometimes. I think the ratio of culture of Siemens is 50% dependent on location or the country and 50% dependent on Siemens as a whole, meaning the American Siemens office still is very American, but you would see tads of Siemens Germany in there, for example, maybe on the internal processes and, perhaps the meeting cycles you have with the German team. But the way they run the office, it's very American. I mean, I have no feeling of it being, the Americans have to all become like, work culture, like a German work culture, because I think more and more we realize that, regional businesses also run in their own regional ways. And every country has their own unique culture and way of working with customers, with local stakeholders, for example, local partners, and so on. So I would say it's 50-50. And I've been trying to think it's 60-40 or 50-50. I think still it's 50-50. Maybe 60-40, 60% country. I think the country plays a strong influence because most of the employees, they are usually from that country, even though most offices I've been in are quite diverse.
As we're talking about different offices, there are also some questions around language requirements. So whether German is necessary as a language requirement, and then B, when you think of international projects, do you feel like you have to learn a new language in order to better complete your assignments?
Maybe to start with question A, and for question B, I would hand over to Gadi probably, because he has an interesting story to tell about learning languages. Question A, we know that German is not the, how do you say, maybe not the sexiest language, but also not the easiest one to learn. So no, we don't require any pre-language skills, of course. I mean, it is always good, since Siemens is a German company, and we will also, once you come to Germany, offer you a language course so you can learn and understand more. Yeah, but we don't require it from the start.
I think that learning languages is a lot about your own motivation and dedication. It can also be frustrating at times. I actually, in high school, I learned French on top of English and Hebrew, which is my mother tongue. When I went to a business school, they required another language, so I studied Spanish. And afterwards, I learned that if I want to start well with Siemens, I will have to learn German. So I learned German. When I moved to China, I find it pretty much an advantage if I speak Chinese. So I also took Chinese classes. So with all that, I have what the maybe Germans would say gemischte Salad. I have a big salad of languages in my head. Maybe I'm not fluent in all of them. But what I learned is that it really helps if you know a little bit of the basics. It's not required to speak German, especially in most parts of the Siemens units actually are outside Germany. We have also headquarters in other countries. With the US is a big one of a few businesses of ours. It is not a must, definitely. English is a must, a good one. But for all the others, they will just open the doors and they will open the hearts of people that you're working with. The more you are serious about it, then you become fluent. And a few of my colleagues are actually already fluent in German, and they have dedicated the time to live, work, and learn the language. So it's only a plus, which you can take with you for the future.
I will pick up on that in the sense that what Gadi said of opening the hearts is just also showing your humility to not impose the language they're more familiar with, but also showing that you're putting in an effort to try to make it more comfortable for everybody to work in their language, and again, it puts you in a good position with the people that you're working with. And secondly, just think about it in the longer term, right? So after the program, those skills are a language is not something that you're going to necessarily drop once you're finished. So it always helps to carry on with you, and the program offers you the opportunity to continue to learn throughout the program, right? So why not execute on that opportunity, even though if it's not 100% necessary?
I will say that I do think that it's for your own good, but in terms of will German is necessity to be part of a leadership team or something, then I think we have moved away from that concept a long time already now. Like if I just look at my business unit now, my portfolio company, then on the leadership team we have me and we have another colleague who's Indian who don't speak German at all, or I speak a bit, but that was never a consideration and never a question in any meetings where there's only one of us, even, and everyone else might be speaking German. It's very natural to say, oh, guys, time to switch. And everyone's falls fluently into place with English. So I would say it's good to know it for your, perhaps if you live in Germany, for example, or you need to learn a culture, but I don't think it hinders your career, if I would put it that way, if you don't know German.
Perfect. Thank you, Joanne. Before we wrap up this session today, I would ask you all, what are your, last minute recommendations about the program to the candidates in the audience, and what gets you excited about your future role at Siemens? Gadi, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think what gets me really excited is that I see myself as a global citizen. And with Siemens, I got all the opportunities to try out new things, live in countries that I wouldn't even think that I would have the opportunity to work in, and also in areas that I'm very interested right now, which is software, robotics, and automation. So this is what gets me exciting, that every few years you get a chance to try out something new. And for the future, I believe and I hope that I will even get a chance to move up the ladder with more responsibility, as it happened already in the past positions that I took. Oh, and the advice is try just to be yourself and see how you can find opportunities with that, because you are what you are, and the Siemens is a company that admires people, a genuine approach. And if you are taking what you already have and you have experience and you have the academic background, so if you add motivation and curiosity, it should be sufficient to be successful, nothing more.
Excellent. Joanne, anything on your end that you want to add?
So I think I look forward at Siemens to maybe in a few years, maybe a new position, maybe hopefully in a different region. So I've had the chance now in Europe, I've had the chance in Asia, I've had the chance in the US. Frankly speaking, sometimes I think of other regions as well. I think it's always exciting, and Siemens really gives a lot of opportunities this way. I don't know if this is a business school personality thing or it's just me, but it's, once you're a global citizen, you always feel like a global citizen. And I think with virtual workings and setups like this and going towards the new normal, it should be even more possible now to live and work maybe in a slightly different place even. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think advice-wise is, I don't want to sound like a parrot, but really be yourself is really true. And it's not just for you, it's for us too. It really helps us to know what you want and how we can make you fit, and vice versa. It helps you in the process to know if this fits you. And this also applies to, for example, I would say, it's a chance to challenge yourself. Is this really what you want? And I would say be bold, be creative. Don't be afraid, because I was a bit afraid. If I think back about it, I was a bit afraid. I felt like I was, I was not sure, I was not fully sure. I was sure, but I was not like, 120% sure. And to be honest, in hindsight, I think there was nothing to be afraid of. I mean, everyone around you is probably about 90% at most sure. So just look forward, don't question yourself, and don't look back.
Perfect, thank you. Antonia, anything from you?
I don't think I can add much more than what it has already been said, right? So I think
all your lines.
Yeah, you did steal all my lines. No wonder we spoke yesterday. Now I get the reason for the conversation, huh?
Exactly. Chess move.
No, I would say, as sexy as the CEO program or the FEP program may sound, make sure that the Siemens is also for you, right? So it's not just another line on your CV. It's 24 months. It's potentially a future career within your life, and you need to make sure that not only the program but the company as a whole aligns with you. So that would be my biggest recommendation, right? Because you could apply to other rotational programs and you could apply to other companies, but you invested your time and money on an MBA. Make sure that you're making the right choice for the program, but also for the company that you're betting on. And secondly, what gets me excited, Joe, I think to be honest, I think this is maybe an MBA thing. I really don't know, but the fact that within Siemens, or at least from my experience with my German colleagues or the ones that I worked with in my first rotation, it seems like once you're done with a project, with a program, Siemens is still a global company, right? So your international exposure doesn't finish there. In fact, I speak to them and they say, yeah, but I was 2 years here, 5 years there, 7 years here, 3 years here, and now they're back in Germany. And that just tells me that once I'm done with the program, that aspect, that global citizen aspect and exposure to different countries and cultures is not going to finish there. So I think that still gets me very, very excited for when the exit takes place.
I think everyone on my leadership team has been working in a different country now that you mentioned this. I'm just thinking out loud now, and I already know 6 out of the 12 of them have already been 3 years in either Latin America or Asia. And some of them that have done it twice even. So I'd say we have chance, Antonio.
Perfect. Rebecca, Jutta, anything also from your side?
Yeah, I think Jutta and I are also quite biased. So my recommendation would be, I mean, of course, we are convinced that those are great opportunities for you. So if you feel the same way, if you really are convinced that this is the right track for you, that this is where you want to continue your career, please apply. We're looking forward to reading interesting and dedicated, motivated applications, and we're looking forward to meet you virtually and have you here in the program finally.
Yes, and as you said, Rebecca, we want those who want to exceed yourself.
Excellent, thank you. Leila, also perhaps any concluding thoughts from your end?
Sure. For me, what I'm excited about most of all, I come from a typical financial services background, and I see this program as an opportunity to really get my hands dirty, learn about the business, the products, the services, the customers. So that's something new for me. And the advice I have for people thinking of applying is don't be intimidated by the size of the business and all the unknowns. I think for me, it was like, oh, what are the type of assignments that I can find? It just seemed a lot of unknowns, and it's this huge conglomerate, and perhaps it's not as agile as one. That's kind of the reputation maybe, but I would say definitely don't be intimidated by that. And on a team by team level, there's definitely a very entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that, so don't be put off by the fact that Siemens is such a big place and that you might not know everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to everyone for your time, for the presentation, to answer all of these questions that we had today from the candidates. And to the candidates, thank you for asking the questions. The recording will be available on the event website within a few days. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao.